Hello and welcome to the webinar. My name is Christian Heidkamp and I am happy to present you today the MariaDB management pack we have been creating. Today I'm here with my colleague Martina Dröge. Martina, do you want to quickly say hi and introduce yourself, please?
Hello everyone, my name is Martina Dröge and I'm part of the development team at NiCE, primarily for monitoring databases. So MariaDB is all up my alley.
Wonderful, yeah. Thank you, Martina. And Martina will take a bit of the role of the database administrator because she's like more into tables, columns, databases, indexes, joins, and everything that is happening on a MariaDB database. So I'm coming more from the SCOM perspective, and we'll first give you a couple of slides and show you the architecture of the MariaDB management pack. And plus then later we also actually analyze a bit in the background what is happening on the database servers we're looking at. We actually right about to start, and I give you a quick overview of the agenda we are going to cover in the next 30 to 40 minutes about. So probably it's a bit shorter, but it depends a bit on Q&A, which is at the end. So please keep the questions to the end, but you can use the Q&A area already to place your questions, or just use the chat. You can also use that. Just note that this is recorded, so I would request to stay on mute, and then in the end we can open the microphones or take a Q&A via the chat. Wonderful. So first I will do a short introduction about NiCE for those who don't know us, and then I give an overview of the MariaDB management pack. There will be a live demo on a number of SCOM servers and dashboards we will show you, but let's first start with the short introduction. So yes, we've been around since quite a while, as you can see, and we're really focusing at NiCE at monitoring software and services. So services are primarily delivered to our customers in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and other bordering countries in Central Europe. In Northern America, we also have offices on the West Coast and the East Coast, and that's basically where we also do primarily support and limited services as well. We are partners with various companies, and actually we are also having a close contact to MariaDB now and to the team who leads the development for MariaDB. So in case we, for example, have questions on specific features we do with monitoring, we have a direct contact to them. Besides MariaDB, we obviously cover a larger amount of databases and other applications we monitor. So MariaDB is really the latest add-on here to this, and maybe a bit of an excursion that why we do this MariaDB management pack is primarily for the number of customer requests we have. So the MariaDB, as we showed to you, is in a production environment at various customers. And typically it's not one MariaDB which is running in there, but there are several in there. So unfortunately, our customers typically don't like us to mention them. So we respect that. So we don't have an official reference. But if you're interested to know about those customers, then please contact me. And we typically work this way that we provide your name to the customer and ask the customer then to direct contact you so they can give you basically a reference for that. There's MongoDB. We also do have a management pack, DB2, and Oracle, Postgres. You see a number of databases on here, which we do support with management packs. But if there are some other databases that you require monitoring for, let us know. That is basically the portfolio here. The first line is everything around Microsoft 365 that we add the monitoring for. NetApp. NetApp is also one of the more recent management packs we have added, and the probably largest one is the VMware management pack, which enjoy over 100 customers at NiCE using that management packs. All right, with that, it should do for the introduction, and let's go into the depths a bit on the MariaDB management pack. So when we started to design this, we basically put a number of objectives out there. So what do you really want to reach with this? So the first is basically we want to integrate it as much as we can into SCOM. So that means have the views in there, have the configuration in there, and use basically what we have without installing additional systems, ideally not open additional ports, ideally not creating additional users. And for this management pack, we achieve that. So there's no ports we need to open, no additional users we need to create, no additional system we need to install. It's basically all can be also rolled out from the SCOM console. So there's nothing that basically, there's no need basically to log into the MariaDB systems. It can be completely done from the management server, given that the prerequisites are correct. With terms of security. If it's a tightened security environment, then obviously some manual steps might be required. But if the security is correctly configured in terms of allowing deploying additional components to the MariaDBs, then this is already completely integrated. This already tells a bit about the architecture, but I have a separate architecture chart in a moment. So we have an agent-based solution. So we require the SCOM agent on the monitoring system, which is typically a Linux system. So on that Linux system, we require the SCOM agent to be deployed and the system to be monitored. Because we have a hosted solution, that means the object that are discovered, like the MariaDB, the actual instance of the MariaDB and the databases, they are basically hosted on the Linux Unix computer in terms of a hosting model from SCOM health service perspective. Then we add the complete availability and performance monitoring, and we tested against various versions of the MariaDB. I will actually show you in the support metrics in a moment. There's another one which we typically get asked, like how much impact actually does that monitoring solution have actually to the MariaDB? And we really are very strict with that. So we make sure we have the minimal impact that we can have. So obviously we need to connect and query the data, but we do this in an efficient way. So we pool this together in SCOM, also called cookdown. We basically bring the workflows together to only basically connect once to the MariaDB, collect all the data, and then bring it over to SCOM. So we don't open and close connections. Next, obviously, the whole thing should be secure. So we shouldn't be able to use the management pack to tamper with the database. So that is also possible. So we can also configure it in a way that we only have the limited permission that are required. That is obviously a separate configuration because you need to have the MariaDB set up in a way with specific roles and users that can do that. But if that is the case, we can attach to that principle and work with that. So that is basically the overview of the architecture principles that flow into the solution. Let's go on. So we have put out the release 1.0, which has included a metric collector, which basically collects all the metrics. So metrics are basically the back end, what goes into monitors. You know, the unit monitors in SCOM and the roll-up monitors and the performance collection rules. So in the back end, we have something that collects that, and that's separate basically, so it can be used universal also for other monitoring solutions. So we have a separate collector that collects that data and brings it into SCOM. I will show this in an architecture in a moment. The next one is the self-monitoring, basically to make sure that the monitoring of the monitoring such is working in case there's a problem. Let's say we cannot connect to the Mongo database, or we have to the MariaDB, or we have a problem with permissions, then that will alert. Next, we have some SCOM tasks that are set up to actually update the different components on the agent. I will also show that in a short version. And then we have the support for the latest MariaDB versions on there. So here's a quick overview of what is supported. So there are older versions which we put on request. They probably will work, but we haven't tested them. So that's typically depends on the amount of effort we want to put in there. So we take specific versions that are common used, and then we test and certify that combination. So you can see it's 2019, 22, and 25 in conjunction with the version 10.6, 10.11, and 11.3, which are supported. This support matrix is available on our portal, on our customer portal, where you can download that. So we include over about 40 performance graphs in there. We have a discovery in there which discovers basically different components, and in the end we have the support for the data for the storage engine which is behind there to actually monitor the MariaDB storage engine. Let's have a look at the architecture. So the architecture obviously consists of two primary parts, which is the SCOM management group, and on the other side is the MariaDB system on a Linux system. And here we have two management servers for high availability reasons. So in case one of them goes down, you still can do the monitoring from the other system. This is balanced via a resource pool where the Linux agent is assigned to. Then we have the regular agent. This is the Microsoft agent, and we have additional providers on here. This is the MariaDB provider. There are actually a number of methods that can be querying that provider, like for example, for performance data and monitoring data, but also for log file data or self-monitoring. And that basically builds the connection into the MariaDB and receives the statistic data from there. So in the end, this runs queries against MariaDB, evaluates these queries, and brings this data over to the SCOM management group. So that's basically the architecture. Happy to answer any questions later if there are. Let's go on a bit and look at the live demonstration, which is more the exciting part, actually. Okay, I put some popcorn here, so let's make a demo session. Okay, you're familiar with the SCOM console, and after you import the management pack, there will be additional folders be added. So obviously there's the MariaDB folder, but if you import the management pack, nothing is being discovered because it requires configuration. The configuration is done in a so-called utility folder. This is uses the company name, and then we have the MariaDB computers. This is something we call also a seed discovery. So the seed discovery basically goes out there and checks like known Linux systems if a MariaDB is running on there. So if a MariaDB is on there, then you can actually start monitoring it. But to do this, you will need to run a task to check for the instrumentation and also deploy the instrumentation onto those systems here. So this one is the task here on the right side. You see deploy MariaDB instrumentation. This is basically the additional provider you have just seen in the architecture, which is then pushed to the system. And that basically ends then up. Once that is in there, it will show up here, and the monitoring will start right away. So there's nothing else you need to do in addition. There are some tools like a test tool and a show license, because it requires a license from NiCE to allow the monitoring of the MariaDB with the management pack. All right. So, but that was more like the setup. So now the actual monitoring. So we have two systems, two MariaDB servers that have been discovered, and now let's look what they're monitored for. So here we actually do have all our monitors listed. All the monitors in here are either availability or performance monitors. You see we have some performance challenge. I'm going to talk to Martina in a moment about what's going on in the system. But obviously most important is here the MariaDB server status to see if MariaDB is running. And then we go all the way into the different performance monitors, everything from like full table scans, joins, connection of users, queries, and so on. So this is a selected set that's been monitored here and is available for thresholding and alerting. And we'll look at the thresholds in a moment. We have even more performance graphs, actually close to 40 different performance monitors on here. If I pick, for example, one on the disk usage here, you use the disk usage, the flushing of the logs, or if we see any of the others here, there's a little movement here. We see some buffer pool 3 megabyte. In that MariaDB, we also have the other one, which gives the performance information for that particular instance for the MariaDB server. That gives a little bit of an overview. You also see down here the MariaDB version we have discovered, the port is running on there, and the socket file that is created. So also if you now spin up an additional instance of MariaDB on the system, it will automatically be discovered, show up, and the monitoring will start. So that is about the MariaDB. Let me also show you a bit how this is done on the actual system. So we'll look a bit under the hood here as well, so I don't need to restart my session. So the support on the Linux system here will basically use this instrumentation, and the instrumentation is placed in a directory, which is basically installed with the instrumentation. And here we have basically the MariaDB management pack, and again the additional information like the SQL, which can be used, a version, and a couple of utility variables. The actual monitoring part is in the provider, and provider is part of the agent package. Further configuration is stored in the configuration directory for the MariaDB configuration, which is here. So, for example, what instances have been discovered and configured. So we see here again on the system, and we see the socket path for that one, and there is a license for actually making sure the monitoring is functional. So that basically comprises the part. So you see there's not much installed really. It's just some utility files. They actually only copied over to the system, so we don't have an RPM or anything. That is basically how we support this out of the box experience, by just going to the system and deploying that what we call instrumentation set of files. So obviously there's a privileged account required with the According Studio's permission. This is what I mentioned. If you don't have that because of security, you still need somebody to manually place the file in the system, then that will also. So that gives an overview first. But besides that, we also have implemented some SquaredUp dashboards. So some of you might be familiar with SquaredUp, and SquaredUp is basically a partner company that provides a visualization for SCOM data. It's called the dashboard server, the SquaredUp DS, now they named it. And we have also created a dashboard for this. So it basically is provided with the management pack. So in here we can see a very nice overview of all the environment. It reports to different management groups, so it might be a bit different, but we see here the two servers and the days that are since when it was started, and here the version again and the data directory. We also added data for the Linux operating system at the same place, so we can kind of correlate the data easily here in this place. And we have the alerts that are coming in. So we have seen there's a thread cache percentage that just like was violated, and I'm going to ask Martina in a moment what's going on in the system. And then there are further data, so a lot of useful information here: table locking, the size of the storage engine, the buffer pools, all of this data, and table joins and scans, which are listed here. So let's take a moment and pass it over to Martina and ask her, can you give us a bit of an overview what is going on your MariaDB servers?
Yeah, those two look pretty busy, don't they? I'm using them I'm using them right now to do some load testing. So I'm using MariaDB Slab and some other load scripts to create and delete some databases and insert and delete data. So that's what you see. And sometimes those servers get rather busy, which we can see in the load, where the queries per second really go up. And then we can also see what what's going on at that time at that system, whether it's more delete SQLs, select inserts, or update statements that are taking place. And below we also see the slow queries that were taking place in the last 15 minutes and how much network traffic was going on. So those two servers are really busy, and yeah, I like the overviews such as Squared Up Dashboard gives me to see what's going on, because I can see a lot of metrics right next to each other. But I
Perfect.
saw
Thank you.
there was this
Mhm.
alert
Please.
over there about the joins without index.
Yeah,
Can
let
you
me
open
actually
that
go
one?
to, yeah, I actually go to another system because I will go to the SCOM server here and look at those you said joins
Jones
without
without
index. Yes,
index, yes.
I see two of them, and there are at 14, and there are, yeah, both are at 14 on both servers. So
That's not so very bad that it warrants really a critical alert. So what do you say about putting the threshold a bit higher?
okay, happy to do this because if I look here, we have a lot of state change events actually. So it keeps
Hmm.
going up and down, it looks like. So if I look up here, so we have 16. So I look a bit like what would be like 46. So it looks like we sometimes go high. Do we have a suggestion for threshold
No,
you want to
I
give a
would I
warning?
would maybe put a warning at 40 and then critical at 60. I
Okay.
did not I intentionally did not uh, improve my SQL to use or I did not put in many indexes, and so it's not surprising, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Obviously, you're the owner of the database, so let me go here and I actually show you the audience here today what we can change in terms of overrides because there are really a number of options. So actually more than you're probably used. Obviously, the first one you can change, select if you want to have an alert on the state change. That means if the state changes, then you could trigger an alert. So you can turn this on or off or select the state. Then you can select, for example, to auto-resolve the alert. You can also disable this monitor if you like. There's something called a match count, which is non-standard. We have added this to all our management packs on all unit monitors, which helps to eliminate spikes. I actually like to put this to 2. I think it will already eliminate quite some of the quick spikes we have because I see if you have a lot of state changes, it sometimes goes a bit flip-flop because it goes up and down. So we really want to have only alert if it stays up at a higher percentage for a while. So, and Martina, you said if there should be like more joins than 40, so I put 40 in here. And for this one, I'm going to put 60 here. So,
Yes, for
okay,
my
and
bid
now
load test that would be good.
so I think I'm just going to store that in the new management pack. So not to mess up with any other management packs, and going to apply this. So I'm expecting that this monitor will soon reset, and then basically the alert will go away unless we are higher than 40 currently with the, which let's check, which shouldn't be the case, which is, oh yeah, we had 53, so we're going to stay at a yellow alert, I guess. So, okay, do you want me to change any other of those monitors here?
Um, I think the rest is okay. The rest is okay. Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
All right. So, okay, good. So let's then see what else we have. So if we go over to the performance counters and let's, for example, look for exactly this performance counter we have been looking at. So the joins without index. So we see it's been going up and down a bit here. This performance graph, you know, they run for a while, like 1-2 days, but we have there was an outage actually here on the monitoring, so there is a gap. So, but in the end, we actually see very well this data. So as we all know in SCOM, this data goes to the operations manager database for like 7 days typically, and it also goes to the data warehouse where it's kept a much longer time. In the data warehouse, typically it's per default 400 days. But if you don't require that data because you're not using reporting or Grafana or SQLup or any other query that takes it from that, why should you have that data there, right? So, and for that reason, we also made an option to decide where this data should be stored. So here, if you go to the overrides and decide to override here, we actually see here like 2 options to change something in the override. So we can say collect to the database, which is true. So if I would disable that one, set this one to disable, it would not store it in the operations manager database, and hence we will not see this graph. Also, if I say, okay, I don't want to collect this to the data warehouse because it stays 400 days in the default setting in there, I actually don't need this data there, so you can set it to false and save you some data that's stored in the data warehouse. Also, this applies to all our other management packs. We try to make it part of all the management packs, to enable you to configure more what data you want to keep and what data you don't want to keep. If I set this now to false, we will not see the data in the SQLup dashboard because SQLup pulls this data from the data warehouse. So we'll leave this also here enabled for this case and don't save it. We try to put everywhere some product knowledge, and we also have it here for those counters. So we give some information, and we have some calculation here, which gives the delta information, and it also gives the counter name. So if you look this up in the MariaDB documentation, you actually will find this counter and can refer to what it actually means and have some understanding of that. So I think this is important, which helps you to actually see what is part of this. Maybe one more thing, because this is a standard product, which is similar to other products we provide. It's not a custom solution. So this is a product which is kind of off the shelf. You can use it without any consulting from us. You basically obtain the management pack and a license, and then it comes with a set of documentation. So the documentation includes typically 3 components, so that you can install the product without basically contacting us. So basically do it all by yourself. The MariaDB Management Pack Quick Start Guide gives you an overview of what you need to do basically to install and deploy the package. It also has some troubleshooting information in the end, and gives you all those details that you need, including like if you want to remove it again, that's obviously also easy at home. Nobody does it, but if you, that's also documented. Then probably the most important document is the so-called reference guide. And the reference guide I'm also quickly going to show you. The reference guide gives an overview of the entire functionality of this management pack. And I'll wait until it starts. There we go. There it is. So it actually gives on the pages the numbers, the monitors we have. Again, there's a metric number. This is the internal collection metric number. So it refers to what data we collect. And we have some interval where this runs, and we have some threshold, and we have this match count. If it's a minimum or maximum monitor, that means if it's over the threshold or under the threshold, we will alert. Same applies to performance rules, where we have a list of those, so you can quickly get an overview of what is contained in the management pack. Last but not least, every management pack contains, we ship every release we ship has the release notes. So the release notes gives you a quick overview about what is included in the product, if there's anything that you need to consider when you use the product. Okay, so I think that covers pretty much it. So there is self-monitoring. I think we saw one alert here, which was caused this morning or this afternoon. Yeah, there's a specific file, and if it's kept open and it has problems of access in it, so that explains this error. So that should typically not occur, but in this case, somebody during the configuration accessed this file, so it didn't have an access. So if it keeps occurring, then this might indicate a problem. But it shows that there's a rule that does this self-monitoring. So if you go on here, there are two rules. This one here basically evaluates a log file on the system. The log file on the system for this is located in the log directory. It should be here. And we see there's MariaDB, and here we have this log file, and this log file basically contains eventual errors that are in here. So we see there was a problem in the past where we had not enough licenses, so that also is reported on this one.
I think I'm responsible for that message. I was playing around on your system.
This one. I see.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, but I repaired it.
Good. All right, I think we showed you pretty much what we can show. Martina, is there anything else you would like to highlight or I didn't touch in details?
There are so many performance counters. I especially like those SQL rates and number of queries and slow queries. Those ones are really helpful, I think, to see what's going on. And yeah, but you touched pretty much all of it.
Well, this one should be ever growing, I guess.
Yes, it should be ever growing, but as we saw, when sometimes the administrator switches off your server.
I see here. Okay.
Yeah.
It drops down.
Then it drops down. Yeah. He wasn't aware that we were using it.
Okay. All right, good. I think then it's time to actually look at some Q&A. So let me go back over to the Q&A slides. If you have questions, visit at NiCE.de, and I'll just going to check if there's some questions. Yeah, there's one question on what platforms it's supported. Yeah, right now the support is only there for Linux, so all distributions of Linux, but it's not there for Windows, so to say. So if you have MariaDB on Windows, please contact us. We can check if there's an option to also make that available, but currently, as it is due to the custom requirements we have for that, only made available on Linux platforms. There's another question. Yeah, how's it licensed? It is basically licensed per MariaDB, so per MariaDB server. So it's like one server requires one license. So that's how it's licensed. So yeah. Okay, one more question comes up. Let me actually go back to the system to show the answer for that. So the question is like, do you need to configure specific runners accounts? No, the answer is no, because we basically use the runners account you have already configured in here. So in this case, we have two accounts configured here, the ops user account for monitoring and the privileged account, so they can be different users, but this is basically also used for connecting against MariaDB. If you have more like a secured environment where you have a dedicated user that is required to connect against MariaDB, then there is on the system a configuration file where a user can be entered that then connects basically to MariaDB. So that is possible, but in typically all the cases we use this ops user for connecting, so also to the MariaDB. All right, so I think there are no further questions. You see? No. So then I think I like to thank you for joining us here today for that short demo of MariaDB. I wish you a great rest of the day. Also, thank you all those who looked this after. And if there are any questions, let us know. And thank you to Martina. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.